An FBI sting goes awry, leaving one man dead via an unknown biological agent.
Upon review of the surveillance, Scully suspects Mulder helped the man thereafter. The mystery that unravels may go deeper than expected.
This is not happening.
15 hours ago, a joint FBI-CIA task force assembled to capture Jacob Stephen Haley, second in command of the militia group known as New Spartans. Intelligence revealed Haley was to make an exchange of money for a quantity of automatic weapons to conduct domestic terrorist activities and to further their express goal of overthrowing the federal government. Due to reasons that are still under review, our operation failed. Jacob Stephen Haley remains at large, whereabouts unknown.
What about the weapons?
An arms dealer named Kadri, who died at the scene, received from Haley a $50,000 bearer bond. Presumably, this was payment for weapons delivered.
In other words, Haley not only got away, he got away with $50,000 worth of guns? Have we determined a cause of death, how Haley killed this man?
He was killed by means of a highly toxic biological agent.
What kind of toxin are we talking about?
We don't know. Its effect on the dermis and the soft tissues, the rapidity of its action. It is not a disease known in nature. It would seem to be genetically engineered. A bioweapon.
How the hell did he get it?
Former Soviet Union. Security on the Siberian vector lab is lax. It's conceivable it was stolen, though we have no confirmation from Moscow.
So, is this in the ozone now? Is this stuff floating through Folger Park?
Level 4 decontamination procedures were undertaken immediately. Our best indications are that exposure was limited and that the toxin was transmitted directly and not contagious.
How do you know that?
We're not all dead?
At this point, we can only guess that the toxin was transmitted by liquid or gas, touch or injection.
Anybody care to tell me how this guy Haley eluded us?
Video recon indicates Haley had an accomplice at the park. We've yet to identify who this was or how Haley knew he was under surveillance.
He must have made us.
Could he have?
I remember this task force was chosen for their lack of exposure in terrorist circles.
Haley's extremely suspicious to the point of paranoia. He's got military training and a guerrilla mentality.
Second only to this man. August Bremer. He's the group's mastermind. However, there are reports that he and Haley are vying for control. This destabilization makes August Bremer our primary threat.
Well, this is it. This is the scenario we've all been worried about, people. Now I need maximum control of information. Nothing leaves this room. The media gets a sniff, we're going to disavow. We're going to stop these men. We're going to make it all go away.
Welcome back, dear listeners, to This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast. Tonight we will be talking about the Pine Bluff variant, one of the last episodes in Season 5. Joined tonight by Mike. Say hello to the nice people.
Hello, hello.
The Pine Bluff variant, written by John Shaban and directed by Rob Bowman. So we should expect some big things from this episode, given these heavy hitters. We got any opening salvos before we vary our way into it?
I didn't even pay attention to what you just said. Bad pun. Bad pun.
Yeah.
Out in the water.
Had to be a bad pun.
I enjoy this episode. I think they do a pretty good job bringing it home. Not perfect by any means, but we will get into it.
I like the beginning. It loses me near the end. As you say, I'm sure we will unravel it as we go. The story begins in Folger Park, Washington, D.C., with Mulder running laps to a creepy ticking soundtrack. We see that Mulder is under some kind of surveillance. He's viewed on green television screens. And then he reports in that the north perimeter is clear, so we figure out he's part of the plot. We cut to Skinner and Scully in a surveillance van, watching the operation in the park unfold. They are looking for a suspect, Jacob Haley, armed and dangerous. He eventually arrives via a city bus and enters the park. He walks across the park. Everybody's eyes are on him. It's all very tense. Everyone's told to stay back, let this thing unfold. Haley goes to sit next to another man at a park bench, and the FBI agents wait patiently. Scully notes that Haley has seen and is watching Mulder. suspiciously. He then stops and he goes to hand the other man an envelope while the agents wait on tenterhooks for something to happen. Mulder stretches his calves seductively, but all too soon the man next to Haley begins convulsing and falls off the bench. Haley calls for help and people run over. However, in the chaos he disappears and Mulder runs in pursuit. At the bench, we see that the flesh of the collapsed man is being eaten away. He is not going to make it. Scully's concerned for Mulder's safety. Haley is clearly armed with something lethal. Mulder chases Haley through the woods, and a worried Scully rushes out of the surveillance van to find him. She sees him in the distance, next to a car that flees the scene, and in the next moment, Mulder appears, telling an incredulous Scully that Haley has gotten away.
It was one of us. One of us was going to do it.
Yeah, we have to. It's now a thing. What do we think of this pulse-raising, nail-biting opener?
I'm on board. I like this one. There's just enough going on. It's interesting. It's kind of spy-crafty, which I'm always on board for. And it puts Mulder in a position to make us go, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on? So I like it.
That is exactly what it sounds like.
That's
amazing,
the theme of the episode.
Yeah, I like it too. It's a rare one where we see the agents in the opener, because usually it is our weird, unexplained phenomenon that happens to other people, and then our agents have to come in and solve the case. But here they are doing actual FBI style work, which is almost a rarity. So that's our nod, that this is going to be a more standard procedural kind of case. Will there even be anything unexplained in this episode? Who knows? I guess you'll have to listen on. So after the credits, Scully is reviewing their surveillance footage that appears to show Mulder, or somebody that looks like him, handing something off to Haley. She confronts Mulder about Haley's disappearance, suggesting that not only did Mulder let Haley get away, Mulder might even have assisted him. Mulder lies badly, saying doesn't know what she's talking about, and he ends up just telling her that they're late for the briefing. So yeah, she is definitely on edge there. She's not sure why he is being this way. And as we go on, I guess I'm not sure why he's being that way either, but this is the episode for us.
I want to point out that Mulder's not technically doing anything different than he normally does by disregarding anything she has to say. So he's perfectly in character right now.
I'll just leave that there because I'm not sure I agree with
I'm just kidding.
I know. But yeah, we'll get into that part later, but I just want to put on the record, I am not sure of this writing decision to cast Mulder on the outside of their relationship. But anyway, the joint FBI-CIA Counterterrorism Council briefing seems to be held in the same spookily lit conference room where we began this season. It's being led by Assistant Director Walter Skinner and co-chaired by U.S. Attorney Sam Lemus, played by familiar Sam Anderson. Now, Mr. Anderson has only been in an episode of Millennium. He's not been in any other X-Files episodes, but you've seen that face. I mean, he's been in other shows.
Oh, yeah.
Skinner brings us up to speed on the episode that the task force wanted to apprehend Jacob Haley, second in command of a terrorist group called the New Spartans. Their intelligence suggested they were going to buy weapons to help their purpose of overthrowing the federal government and just being generally bad people. Scully notes that the toxin was likely transmitted directly and is not contagious, and there's this amusing note where they say, well, how do we know that? And Mulder says, well, we're all not dead. But you got to give them.
That's true.
Lemus then focuses in on how Haley managed to escape, and Mulder fails to look guilty to Scully's longing glance there. Skinner mentions the video surveillance shows Haley had an accomplice at the park, but they have not identified him or figured out how Haley knew he was under surveillance. The briefing circles around to introducing us to another villain, the other man leading the New Spartans, August Bremer. Skinner tells us that Bremer and Haley are vying for control of the group. There are concerns that the council has a leak that was responsible for tipping Haley off, and Attorney Lemus then ends the briefing on a real problematic note, that no information is to leave the room and that if the media gets a sniff of it, they are going to disavow. This is a U.S. attorney who is actively fomenting a cover-up.
Yep.
So, I mean, this says all you need to know about this character, right?
Yeah, he's not shady at all.
No. I do like the background notes on this sort of bring up the idea of the number of takes Mitch Pileggi had to go through to say his lines in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
He has a real problem with the two of them vying for control. Like, he has like 7 takes before he gets it right. I'd say watch it. It's fun. Meanwhile, in Gable's Corner, Ohio, as our camera lingers on the Dunbar movie theater, with tonight's showing of Die Hard with a Vengeance and Titanic displayed. Fun fact, this theater is still operating in Vancouver at 4555 Dunbar Street. So why not drop by tonight for one of their popular happy hour combos? For only $6.25, get a large popcorn and a large drink, or just $5.25 for a small heap and an orange crush, Monday through Friday between 5 and 6 at the Dunbar Theater, people.
Our listeners would be happy to know that Andrew's new job is advertising for the Dunbar Theater. We wanted to show you, we wanted to just let you all in on that.
Yeah, they paid us $0 for that advertisement, but I just, wanted to show people that we could very subtly segue in some rolling ad.
Free popcorn is free popcorn.
Damn straight. It's a happy hour special. Literally for 1 hour between Monday and Friday, you can weave in there and get it.
Oh, so this is real.
This is real.
I thought you were full of shit. I mean, I knew you were reading something, because I'm like, maybe that's just a joke a bit. But okay. All right.
No, I can give you the website too if we want to complete the show.
I do have one question. Are the dead bodies from this episode still in there?
I doubt it. Doubt it. Yeah. And I also doubt you can slip in, and find a way to get in with a coat hanger. Anyway, back in Gable's Corner, we zoom in on a bored ticket wicket operator who is reading a magazine. Patron arrives to buy a ticket despite the fact she says the movie is almost over. This is our second villain, August Bremer. This is also, I'm sure Mike would like to tell us, a recurring actor.
Yes. I was wondering. Well, first of all, I'm sure, Andrew, have you looked it up?
I did look it up, yeah.
Okay, so you know who it is. This is Too Cool for School Park Ranger from Jersey Devil. I love this guy.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see him again.
Yeah, he's got a goatee on, which is why it works, because in Jersey Devil, he has a mustache.
Yeah, and it's Michael McRae.
He's pretty decent.
He does great in both episodes.
So she sells him the ticket, and then he asks for popcorn. He'd like fresh popcorn, proving he is the worst customer ever.
Fresh.
Yeah, sign says fresh. She walks over to make it, telling him it's going to be a minute. And Bremer ominously pulls on some gloves and pulls out a small aerosol can. This is not going to end well for anybody. Fun fact, the ticket wicket operator is Kate Braidwood, the daughter of Tom Braidwood, otherwise known as Frohickey. But she's going to die, so she's not going to get to come back in another scene as this character. I say that. I don't really know. Maybe she does, Mike?
Yeah, there's a good chance she does, but we don't know.
There's some background, maybe. Who knows? Well, they're going to end...
You just see her melting over the popcorn.
They're going to end production in Vancouver, so unless she moves to LA, she's not going to be in anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's now night as a car pulls up outside the Aaron Burr Motor Court in Angola, Delaware. We're going all over the place in this episode. DC,
got several
Ohio,
locations.
Delaware. I mean, there's probably thousands of miles in between these places, right?
I wouldn't say it's on par with Terma.
Yeah. Well, at this motor inn, Mulder goes into the office to rent a room as Scully pulls up some distance away to watch. Mulder enters his room to receive a phone call from Haley.
Yeah?
You set me up.
I saved your ass.
Why wasn't I told?
I didn't know about the operation.
It was your operation.
No. The Justice Department got an anonymous tip. I found out about half an hour before it went down. I did what I could.
You'll have to do better than that, Mulder.
What else can I say? I got as much to lose here as you do. They catch you, you'll flip me. Look, I believe in your ideals and your goals. The only reason I tolerate your methods is because the governments are worse.
Wow, what a ringing endorsement.
Hey, you came to me, remember? I mean, what more do you want from me? I've risked everything. I've given you information. My partner is seriously suspicious. If that's not enough for you, that's all I got.
Gotta ask, did that resonate with you at all? Did you think, oh, what is this? Mulder has changed sides? What?
No, I would like to say I would imagine that the first time I saw this, I wasn't bamboozled. I was more like, what's going on? What's the angle? What's happening? Obviously, he's Mulder. He's not actually doing this. But for me personally, it just felt like I liked it, but it wasn't concerning as a fan of the show that Mulder's now doing questionable things. And to be fair, I don't think that the writers were necessarily trying to get us to believe that as the audience. I know they're playing it up in the episode, but they do drop the bombshell pretty quick here afterward. What's the angle? That's more of the question I feel the audience would come back with when they're first watching this, is not, oh my God, is Mulder actually flipping? Or did he really just allow that man to die and do nothing? I don't feel like that was the major question that the audience was expected to have.
This is the beginning of probably one of my major problems with the episode is the whole setup of Mulder being undercover. The minute Scully was reviewing the footage and he was cagey, I'm like, oh, he's undercover. And he's been told not to tell her. That was immediately where I went. And of course it was proved true. But I have a hard time with deciding to write this because no one, unless this is their first X-Files episode they're going to watch, no one is going to believe that Mulder, is suddenly in bed with a terrorist organization.
Right.
So it rings very hollow.
And that's kind of that's why I think I come to that conclusion, is like, that's just not even a reasonable ask for the writers to say, diehard fans are going to really question Mulder's intentions. No, I think the question we come away with as fans, presumably, is, what's the angle? What's happening here? Obviously, he's undercover, but, how's this going to turn out?
I guess I kind of wish that they gave us more, a little bit more behind why he's doing this, that we'd go, oh, actually, maybe this is a real thing. But it's just played so black and white straight that it just doesn't land, and I'm just sitting here waiting for the reveal so that we can get on with the rest of the plot. So we cut back to the movie theater later that night, where two teens end up sneaking into the theater to watch the movies for free. And we have a delightfully creepy moment where they notice the seats are packed with decomposing skeletons as the movie plays on in the background.
I dig it.
Yep.
It's actually pretty good. It's
pretty good. I mean, I can imagine the moment there when you're looking back and seeing these gross skeletons behind. Ugh. Where if it was a live performance, I know that, your artist would say, hey, everybody come on down, get a little closer so that we can all, don't be shy. Don't be so far away. But in a movie theater, you do have people that are like, I want to spread my legs out and take off my pants, and I can do that in the comfort of a theater if I have the privacy. So.
Taking your pants off?
Yeah, totally.
Well, it was during the day a little bit, right? So maybe not as many. Maybe it was a matinee. I didn't catch the time. I don't remember.
It was late at night, yeah.
Oh, well, it was.
Back at the hotel, Scully fast talks her way into finding out that Mulder has checked in with an alias, Mr. Kaplan. There's even a great moment where the manager asks Scully if she's the wife, and she responds, not even close. She's definitely pissed off at Mulder at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So in Mulder's room, Haley is called back. He apparently is mollified by Mulder's explanation. He confirms that we will proceed as planned, so something is going to happen. Mulder exits the room and a car pulls up, taking Mulder away as Scully looks on. She gets into her own car and follows. But later on the road, she is stopped by two cars and a squad of well-dressed G-men get her out of her car. Later on, she's escorted down a hallway where she is met by Skinner and U.S. Attorney Lemus, where they let her in what we've probably already figured out, that Mulder is in a deep cover assignment infiltrating the New Spartans. It turns out that the Spartans chose Mulder specifically because of sentiments he aired publicly, and this is a neat idea. It's probably during his presentation in Patient X, where he's like lambasting the government there.
I actually like that little detail.
I do like the tie-in. It's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. It does explain why Mulder would do an undercover operation at all, as that is not his forte. We can see what a bad liar he is, but I guess where it counts, he's able to actually bring it home. Anyway, it's all a bit convoluted, but ultimately it seems that the feds are using the opportunity to uncover the true aims of the terrorist group. And while it seems they'd have more than enough grounds to round them up, the whole lot of them, and send them to jail, but okay. Especially after another agent enters to let them know that the toxic agent has been used again at a movie theater in Ohio. Question 1. Actually, question 17 here, but for me. I get that it makes an interesting episode, when we have Mulder keeping a secret from Scully. I've already hashed out that we don't really ever doubt his motives. I mean, I'm sure everybody saw the plot hook coming. Would Mulder actually have kept the secret from Scully? I mean, this is what I kind of want to have a little short discussion on here as to whether it would have been tactically better to involve her rather than have her potentially risk this operation by keeping her in the dark.
I don't necessarily, I'm kind of with you on that. I don't buy that he would keep it from her. I mean, the only reason you would do that, like you said, is to keep her from getting involved in such a level where she would be compromised or the operations compromised somehow. Mm-hmm. But I think by not telling her, she's taking steps that does what they don't want to happen. Right? So like they actually have to pull her off the road to stop her from interfering. So just fucking tell her.
And I'm sure Mulder would be the first one at the outset to say, look, I really want to tell Scully. She kind of has my back on everything. And I don't really want to keep her on the outside.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anybody would have been suckered into this idea that Mulder is actually on the other side now. So, like...
Yeah. It was a little weak.
All right. Moving on. A car pulls up to a warehouse and 3 men exit, pushing a hooded Mulder inside. His hands are strapped to a table, and Mulder quips that this must be the Pepsi Challenge. And that apparently is a David Duchovny quip that they committed. So good on you, David. Haley proceeds to have Mulder tortured by having one of his goons, affectionately called the Gimp, twist and break Mulder's little finger. Mulder, though, he sticks to his story while Haley tries to get him to confess, and we even have Mulder calling out the futility of torture by saying, "You want me to lie and say yes?" With a final threat of the aerosol can, Mulder challenges Haley by saying, "If you got set up, it was one of yours." This totally feeds into Haley's paranoia and forces him to think about Bremer's loyalty. Haley decides he believes Mulder. We're back at the movie theater in Ohio now, where it's been all sealed up. And a technician advises Scully that the theater is clear with no hot zones or atmospheric, which I suppose is all we need to know that this toxin is kind of just specifically dangerous. Skinner reveals that there were 14 victims, including the patrons, a projectionist, and the unfortunate daughter of Tom Braidwood.
This begins the weakest plot point for me.
Yes.
And we'll get into it, but
yeah,
this is the bothersome part for me.
Well, listen, this is not the worst offense as far as biohazard and safety protocols are explored in the series.
Walking in with trench coats and flashlights, that's it. We're good to go.
Well, I think the winner goes to ICE, where they walk into there with like not even a face mask and then say they followed all the safety protocols.
They declare that, we're good. We've taken all the safety precautions.
Well, I got to imagine they've, quote unquote, decontaminated the whole place. But like, what do you decontaminate it with, right? Like, how do you know?
You shut the building down.
Well, and the tarp job they do is pretty crap too, right? You literally see some of the plastic sheets flying in the wind. But whatevs. They go on to mention there were 2 teenage survivors, but the plot never actually circles back to the fact that these 2 snuck in. You know, they're going to be referenced twice. She says they'll help us find out how this contagion spreads. And she's like, I don't know how they survived. It's so strange. It's like you could ask them.
We'll get to it.
I have a feeling that this is a case of script creep. Like they worked with a script up to that point, and they probably had it set up that the teenagers were there, but they didn't touch something. But then later on, they needed to actually fill that. And so they filmed the bit with the 2 teenagers sneaking in, and then they sort of merge it all together. That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
I was just thinking gaping plot hole.
I mean, yeah, they don't do themselves any favors with the editing here, but
Those are grade A plastic gloves.
latex is invulnerable to this, apparently. Although you only find that out by doing it. You don't test for that.
Yeah, she's not a sit on the bench type of person. She's like, well, we're just going to see what happens.
Well, Scully deduces that since the hazmat team didn't find any atmospheric traces, it has to be something that everybody touched. So she leans down to pick up a ticket stub. And there's dramatic music suggesting that this is the murder weapon. So, yeah, I mean, it's akin to like smelling something that might be poisonous, you know? Smells like burnt almonds.
She gets real close to the dead body.
Yeah, that's another thing, right?
I'm Scully. I'm going to go to this biohazard zone in a skirt and nylons.
Yeah, I mean, we even have a user comment to that point. It was just like,
oh, really?
Yeah, why on earth are they not in hazmat suits? Like, you've got the say-so of one dude who's like, oh yeah, it's clear, you know. My little gadget says that there's no bad stuff in the air, so go on.
He's like holding a Ghostbusters meter. Nah, we're good. No ectoplasm.
And meanwhile, the two of them walk in and they look at this guy. Wait, he doesn't work for us. Anyway. He's just wandering around. Well, later on, at Mulder's apartment, Scully confronts him and lets him know that she's been read in on this undercover operation. She tends to his broken finger, leading to what is probably a great moment for all you shippers out there. And yeah, let's have some sighs there. She's tending to him nicely. She relays that the terrorists have struck again with the toxin in Ohio. Scully intones ominously that maybe this is a test for something bigger, which is a rare turn in which she is using Mulder's superpower of predicting the plot. The rest of the scene we hear in scratchy audio as the camera moves out to Bremer, who is using a laser device of some kind to listen in on their conversation. Mulder relates to Scully that Haley is paranoid and they still need something from Mulder. He also name drops Bremer just as the camera pans up to him, so good work. All right, next round of questions, because
it's called a double reveal, Andrew.
Yeah, the plot. John Siobhan is an expert. Where it goes. Next round of questions. How does Bremer know where Mulder lives? How does he know to eavesdrop in on this conversation? It makes sense if Haley has told Bremer all about Mulder, but the plot suggests that paranoid Haley might not trust Bremer enough for this. So again, why is Bremer here? I mean, it's a good plot turn, I guess, but it doesn't really make sense.
Well, they
especially
answer
this
it
reveal
later.
that Bremer's a mole for the CIA. Anyway, go on.
No, I'm with you. I didn't know if you were setting... Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know if you were setting up the question for later, but then you just answered it. So, all right.
Well, I don't think there are answers to these questions, but they're just like...
I buy it on some sense because the big baddie is in charge and he knows what's going on and he's working with Bremer. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was spying on Mulder because Mulder's not in the inner circle, you know?
Yeah.
Like this guy, everyone at the table in the conference room is beneath the guy. He's like, I know what's going on. I'm just using this whole thing as a means to an end. So once the end of the episode comes, it makes more sense.
It makes marginally more sense.
Marginally more sense. Okay, yeah. That's fair.
Anyway, I just found like the reveal was a bit much, but
fair.
I get it. You know, there's a double bluff here, and I do like the thing of them being eavesdropped on. It's a nice little turn, but I don't know. I guess I don't like it. I'm allowed not to like it. So there we go.
Spoiler alert, ladies and gentlemen. Andrew's got a problem with the episode.
Later, Mulder checks in with Skinner and Lemus, and he fills in the missing plot piece. The terrorists want Mulder to supply them with documents considering the Federal Reserve Bank, including cash transfer schedules. Skinner is skeptical that this plot is just about money, and Lemus has conveniently prepared the docs they'll need in advance for Mulder to supply, and Skinner wants a tail on him for his protection. Lemus objects, saying that if they spot the tail, they'll kill him on the spot, and Mulder leaves with a quip. He says, if I'm not back by midnight, feed my fish. Any thoughts on this scene? Because I'm not sure.
Yeah, they're turning that dial, right, where they're cranking the suspicion meter up on someone else. And it's slight, I guess, but at the same time, it's like, really, you just had it ready to go.
Well, all right, to give it a bit of credit, and you kind of have to know the end of the plot for this to make sense, but it's like Lemus doesn't want the tail because maybe he's partially hiding his own involvement in the operation. Like he doesn't want more eyes on the whole thing. He doesn't want the bank heist to be found out because that might expose him. I mean, the only other reason they do this is to ramp up the tension because Mulder is on his own. You know, he's got to do this without any kind of oversight. Right. But I don't know. I don't think the actual FBI would work this way. But what do I know? I'm not in that field.
I was just thinking about the rest of the show. Like, why is it suddenly I don't think the FBI acts a lot of ways, but...
Well, we'll check in on Scully now, who's pursuing the science angle on the toxin. There's some discussion on how ingeniously the Streptococcus bacterium has been altered to let it survive in the environment. Streptococcus will die on its own if it's not protected in some way. But in this case, it's been coated with a synthetic protective coating. Dermal contact activates the contagions. Ingenious in its own evil way. The technician Scully is talking to confirms that it couldn't have been developed by the Russians, as they have nothing this sophisticated, and of course, we can just take this guy's word for it.
This guy, random dude who we've never seen and will never see again, ladies and gentlemen, says they don't have
things that the Russians have, and they don't have anything like this. So there you go. Scully rings up Skinner to let him know about all this, and she gets that he's doing this on the speakerphone and asks that they could talk in private. So she's already got her suspicions about the U.S. attorney. She's learned that the U.S. Army was working on a Streptococcus bacterium in their Pine Bluff facility in the 1960s. So Scully has learned that the U.S. Army was working on a Streptococcus bacterium in their Pine Bluff facility. This is where the episode title comes from, in the 1960s. And she submits that the bioweapons program may have continued in secret and that someone might be sending Mulder on a suicide mission. Skinner then proceeds to poorly hide this information from U.S. Attorney Lemus.
Yeah, he doesn't veil anything really in the phone call, but then when he hangs up, it's like,
Did you want some lunch?
I was waiting for Lemus to lean in and go, what did they cancel? What are you on to?
We then go back to Mulder, who, after handing over the bank information to Haley, has been escorted back to the terrorists. Everybody's now arming up for their bank heist, and we have some power glances between Haley and Bremer. Haley sticks up for Mulder, and they decide to bring him along for the job. Does that make any sense, to bring Mulder along?
What is your issue? Because I can view it as, I've never questioned it, I'll be honest, and maybe I'm just an idiot, but maybe it's insurance because he is technically working for the enemy and he's working on that trust with Haley and he seems to have proved it, but maybe it's either insurance in case something goes wrong or it's Haley going, hey, you're part of the team now, we're going to cut you in. And as long as you can prove to us that you can handle yourself.
Fair. Mulder's training is to be given a gun and told not to point that at the wrong way or something. They basically
make sure you point
that the right way. I mean, it's delightful in its simplicity. It's like they clearly wanted the plot to go into action territory and to put him in the middle of it in an uncomfortable position where he's going to be on the inside looking out. But I don't know. Bremer is supposed to be really smart, and I feel like this is not a smart move to bring Mulder along.
But
I mean, anything can go wrong now.
We'll move on, but I think I have a thought on that.
Okay.
For the end.
Okay, we'll leave that for the end. Anyway, I just have an issue with the whole idea, but you know what? It makes for a nice armed assault scene, so we'll just go with it. We have a bunch of intercuts here. Scully has this revelation that the money is what was used in the Ohio Theater massacre to transmit the bacterium. And as the terrorists drive in the armored car, masked up and ready for heist action, they give Mulder a machine gun to use. At the bank, we have a normal work day and the manager going over to let in the armored car guys, and surprise, it's a squad of horror movie bank robbers who march him back to rob the bank. We have some stock bank robbery action set pieces as people are ordered to the floor and guards are disarmed, and Mulder stands watch over a bank teller. The teller seems to be close to a panic button and is shot while Mulder watches. Mulder is ordered by Haley to finish him for what seems like absolutely no good reason, given they are all wearing masks.
Finish him! They've seen your face. Your true demon face.
They've seen your Dracula mask. Why haven't you finished him yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my big deal there. It's like this long drawn-out sequence of Mulder not finishing him.
He's just getting his legs. It's like Bambi, just born.
I'm
getting his legs. Once you get the first one, then the rest come easy.
Well, actually, no. He was trained by Quiet Willie. And if we've learned anything about Quiet Willie, he takes a long time to line up his shot.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't help that Haley's on his case. He's like, why is he still alive? Why aren't you finishing?
His menacing hours are pretty low.
Yeah.
He hasn't acquired quite a few.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Mulder is really bad at finishing people. The money is taken. The remaining money is sprayed with aerosol cans. Oh, no, the plot. Mulder is again ordered to kill the teller, and again, he does not kill him. And then when the tension is really ratcheted up, the situation is resolved by Bremer doing the finishing and explaining that that gun's traceable for some reason. The others are fine, but that one, I goofed by giving you the traceable gun. Ha ha.
Whoops.
Anyway, we don't see the shot that does the finishing, so maybe Bremer didn't actually kill the teller. People seem to think he did, but
I'm sure he did.
Yep. Anyway, mission accomplished. They leave the bank. I don't know. It's kind of weird. It is so long. And Mulder is like, I don't know what to do. I don't want to kill this guy.
They do this sometimes. Yeah. And Mulder, actually, in the scene I'm about to reference here, is also the one hesitating again. When Reggie dies over the phone.
Yeah.
Reggie? Come on, Reggie, what's going on?
Reggie.
There's a killer escaped and he's hunting people. What's wrong? Why aren't you responding to me?
Are you having a heart attack? Are you choking?
Yeah.
Should I hang up and dial 911?
How long until the episode fades out to commercial?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like I would be in my car 30 seconds ago.
Yeah. Squealing his way over. They steal the money in the middle of the room and they spray the money that's in the vaults on the sides, the money they're not taking.
The money that's going to be processed.
So there's an interesting comment on this. Actually, it's one of our listener comments, which I'd like to feed in now, which is really smart. Wouldn't the first tellers that deal with this money die? And then they'd be like, whoa, there's something wrong with that money.
Wait a minute.
I'm not handing that to customers.
Stacy just keeled over.
Yeah, was it something she ate? Yeah.
She was eating her pudding and now she is pudding.
We should initiate a countrywide recall of pudding.
Dear Yo Play, I don't like what you did to my girl.
Yeah, the flesh-eating yogurt, not my favorite.
I will never
flavor.
eat vanilla again.
Yes.
Your strawberry cheesecake is delightful, however.
The Pine Bluff variant of yogurt curiously did not sell well. Back at the terrorist warehouse, the masks and money are thrown into a bonfire, where Mulder puts the pieces together to figure out that the heist was a fake-out, done in order to contaminate the money supply. Bremer decides it's time to eliminate Mulder, and we have a showdown between Haley and Bremer. Haley believing that Mulder is on their side, even though reference back to the very poor act of finishing that Mulder executed in the... executed, actually, not the right choice of word. Anyway, Haley clearly has misplaced loyalties. And then Bremer plays the secretly recorded conversation between Mulder and Scully, and a disbelieving Haley listens.
This answers part of your question.
Please,
elucidate. Well, no, from earlier. The whole idea is to plant Bremer as the head of this organization. So
right,
that's why the spying, right?
Okay, so
he needs Mulder to have this confrontation in order to shut Haley down and by this conversation proving Haley's so incompetent that he's
lead.
recruited an FBI agent, he can't lead this organization.
Okay, and I do buy that. I think it's a little convoluted. I think there's another way that they could get here, but sure, it works. That certainly does answer my question. Meanwhile, Scully gives her theory about the money contamination to Skinner, and Skinner relays that there have been 27 robberies in 7 states this morning. Who knew that the US of A was so crime-ridden in 97?
I want to know if that, like, I haven't looked it up, but every time I watch this episode, I'm like, I wonder if that's actually the case, or like these idiots are just robbing random banks and there's like 30 of them every day on the Eastern Seaboard alone.
Maybe in the 90s, maybe it's less, maybe it's more now. It's pretty crazy to think, but yeah, it's likely. They're examining the tapes to try and figure out which bank this particular heist happened in. And of course, Scully's walking by and she sees the tape that has Dracula featured in freeze frame quite prominently, but she walks by. Oh no, that's Mulder. No, you've missed it.
I don't think she's going to make it.
I think that this is going to go badly. At the terrorist warehouse, Bremer has asserted control and has both Haley and Mulder at gunpoint. He lets Haley go by putting a leather key case on his head and telling him to get out of here. I don't want to see your face again. So he does.
Okay.
I guess we can still be friends, right?
I'm out of here. Oh.
Mulder, he decides, is going to get shot. And he marches him off with the Gimp in tow. And there's a really nice little showdown there where Bremer's explanation for taking him away, it's a little bit weak. He says, if I do this in front of you, there'll be accessories to a crime. Okay.
Even though they just took place.
Yeah, exactly.
In a bank heist.
Yeah, this is what you're worried about? Okay. But it does give the Gimp an opportunity to, show that he is gleefully looking forward to the execution of Mulder. Not a nice guy, apparently.
Miss it for the world.
Yeah. I think a competent DA would get the charge of murder to apply to all of them nonetheless.
Yeah.
I think that wouldn't be an issue. Anyway.
Seeing 3 people walk into the distance, one with a gun, and just letting it happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know what would happen.
I had no...
Yeah.
How are we to know?
Anything could have happened. In fact, anything does happen because we have a long, drawn-out scene, which we know Mulder will survive. And the players involved tell us everything we need to know. Bremer shoots the Gimp instead of Mulder and tells him there is a car waiting for him. Mulder runs off. I think it would have been way more interesting if the Gimp shot Bremer.
That would be cool.
I would not have seen that.
Yeah, that I would not have seen.
I mean, in the end, does it matter who is the mastermind here? Who is the CIA plant?
I mean, the final pieces of the puzzle have pretty much fallen into place. At this point, we can assume that the head honcho is orchestrating this whole thing because...
U.S. Attorney Seamus, you mean?
Yeah.
Leamus? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, clearly he's in cahoots with Bremer, or has orchestrated it so that he is doing this thing. But anyway, the episode's losing a grasp on reality for me at this point. But I'm okay. Mulder drives over to the bank where Scully and the rest of them have already arrived and contain the scene. Scully notes that she saw Mulder's splinted finger, and that's what led them to the bank, which I do like. I think that is a nice turn. We lean into the denouement now, with Mulder throwing his righteous indignation at Leamus.
August Bremer, or whatever his real name is, he's working with us.
Mulder, before you go any further, you should know that the biotoxin they use may have come from government labs. Our government.
You're saying I was set up?
We have no definitive information to justify that position.
It was being used? This whole operation, the people that died in that theater?
Agent Mulder, our government is not in the business of killing innocent civilians.
The hell they aren't. Those were tests on us to be used on someone else.
Those bills have been analyzed. The money in the vault gave no readings. There's absolutely no evidence of any biotoxins. So before you climb on any bandwagon...
You knew about this all along. You knew about this the whole time.
I want that money rechecked.
That money has been cleared. It's being used as evidence in a federal crime.
That money's as dirty as you are, isn't it? Isn't it?
Say that were true. Then what do you hope to accomplish, Agent Mulder, as a whistleblower? To mobilize a civil rights action? To bring down the federal government? To do the very work that group you were a part of is so bent on doing? What do you want? Laws against those men or laws protecting them?
I want people to know the truth.
Well, sometimes our job is to protect those people from knowing it.
Yeah, it's pretty standard stuff.
I mean, if you're going to do this.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it's worth it to bring you down because you're
Right.
going to hatch these kind of plots.
So let me get this straight. You sacrificed hundreds of people
Yeah.
just to see if this could work. It's like,
Well, I want to save that line of what the plot was trying to do for final thoughts. So let me wrap this up with the final cut of Haley's car slowing down and weaving, and then he drives off the road, and we hear the car horn continuously sounding. And cutting into the inside of the car, we see that Haley is not going to come back for a sequel because much of his flesh is being eaten away.
so terrible to see Kreuger go.
Yeah.
Kreuger?
I did not need to see the body. I would have figured it out with just the car weaving off the end and the horn going fade to black. I know everything I need to know, but
Subtlety could have been cool there.
could have been. And that's the episode. We fade to black with the credit of Chris Carter coming up. Do we like to get to final thoughts now? Mike, where are you at?
Overall, I think the episode's really good. It's enjoyable. It's a little bit different than what we're used to, and I do agree there is some convoluted nature to it. But on the whole, maybe I give this one more credit just because I feel personally it falls together nicer than some other episodes that try to be spycrafty. And I agree with the idea that some of those threads should have either been unraveled and straightened out a little bit or just cut off completely. Because, I mean, my biggest issue with this episode is how long it took the FBI to figure out it was the money. What?
Well,
come on.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, go on.
It's just, it's such an obvious thing. I'm like, what could everyone in the movie theater touch? I mean, I understand, popcorn and shit like that, but I mean, what else do you have? It's so obvious.
Well,
and
but
I feel like they took too long.
I would take exception to that, though, because the projectionist is listed among the victims. And why would he be touching the money unless they pay him out of the receipts?
True, but wouldn't you check everything? And I think this comes back to Hank, the hazard man who didn't do his job.
Yes, exactly.
And,
by the way, folks,
threw
don't touch anything in there, eh?
Yeah, it's just like he throws a fucking Gelson's bag over everything and
done my job.
Don't touch that.
Yeah.
Everything else is cool. I don't know. For me, that is probably the weakest plot point. Like I was alluding to earlier, I think it was just painful to be like, oh, we're 35 minutes in. Oh, that's what it was. It was the money.
I'd like to extend from your point and say that I think the main problem is that they really wanted to write a kind of highbrow thriller with a complex plot, but it's in a way it's so simple you don't believe any of it because you don't believe Mulder is going to betray the FBI. Mm-hmm. You don't believe he's going to die at the end. You don't believe he's going to shoot the teller when he has been commanded to. And that's just 3 out of about a dozen instances where things happen. You're like, I don't think anybody's in actual danger here. You've tried to set things up that there are these stakes, but you end up going, well, I don't believe that, and I'm just going to wait for you to tell me, how this gets resolved.
Yeah, a lot of it is smoke and mirrors. I would agree with that.
But I think more than that, I mean, this is an X-Files trope of there's a shadowy government conspiracy. They're trying to uncover it and determine, what is the truth here and should the truth be told. Very late in the game does that get kind of uncovered. But
yeah, that was tacked on. I didn't care for that quite as much. I could have done without that coda.
Yeah, they needed to have it because it's kind of latching on to the look and feel of the show. But I didn't like it. I would then go on to say I don't understand what Lemus's plot is all about. Like the idea of arming these terrorists with the the flesh-eating bacterium to see what it could do.
I think it's just so they can get away with testing it and not have it blow back on the government. Had they picked someone else to bring into their organization, it would have gone off without a hitch, probably. But then because it was Mulder, it was like, you know, they had to have that fight at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's fine. It's whatever. I think it would have been cooler if Mulder and Scully just put the pieces together themselves and the episode ends, you know. And we don't have that explosive dialogue between Mulder and Lemus and Scully.
Which goes nowhere. I mean, I suppose the interesting idea is the idea that as agents of the FBI, they are kind of complicit within this plan of the government, and I'm using the government in air quotes here, to do this thing. You know, you're by extension part of it, even if you think you're going to be whistleblowers. It's you know, you doing your job is just going to sort of do the job of the terrorist group. And
I feel I've been debating whether or not to throw this in there, because ultimately I don't know what relevance it has. But upon you saying that, I'm like, okay, it does. I see this as kind of like a mirror episode to FMS Gilada, because they're on that side of do we, don't we tell the public. I mean, I know at this one it's right at the end, but it also feels like the necessity of the story to kind of put the government in this really shady thing. Yeah. You know, which maybe it didn't need to have.
Well,
maybe there's a better episode in here where it's just a bad organization.
Well, frankly, it's people, right? It's people within the government. I think it's the failing of the X-Files to cast the government, again in air quotes, as the enemy, because the majority of the government are just, you know, bureaucrats. They don't do anything. They have a directive. But in this case, it is, you know, literally people in positions of power with an idea that they're going to try and do something. So very much acting not according to a mandate, but, you know, a very loose mandate, maybe. Mm-hmm. Like I think I said this in Travelers, you know, when the plot of that one is to test an alien, you know, human hybrid, where they sort of sew the alien into the human and see what happens, right?
Cross-stitch.
History has shown that the CIA actually does do this kind of stuff. They did it, it in the 60s with MK Ultra. They literally would just dose people and see what happened. And it's bad science, because it's not like they had a whole, you know, supply chain of people and careful notes and, you know, let's see what we can do. They just assumed that they could do something, so they did it, and they just wanted to see what would happen. So in that sense, I'm okay with the idea that, all right, let's just release Pine Bluff and see what happens. But I mean, the implications of doing that are just ridiculous. Like, what if the money supply had been infected and went out? You know, who's to say your nephew doesn't get the flesh bacteria? Oh, I guess that blew back on you.
It's for the greater good.
That's right. Well, at least we know. It's like, you know, the shit works because you've seen it happen. It's like
little Timmy.
Yeah. So
Timmy no face.
Yeah, no longer face. So I think I've, in the end, I like the tone. As we've said, the directing and the acting, all excellent. I mean, it's Rob Bowman at the helm, so it looks great. And
at the end of the day, I'm not turned off by this episode at all. There are quibbles with it, but I love it.
Cool. I did not love it so much. I mean, I liked the beginning. I like how it developed, and then it just runs off a cliff for me when I start being confronted with why people are doing what they're doing, and just generally that they're asking us to believe things that I will not accept about these characters, right? So it just loses me a bit from there. So it's standard X-Files fare, but convoluted plot, and ultimately it's kind of just a roller coaster. So those are my thoughts. For Pine Bluff, it's kind of short. I definitely need to rewatch Pine Bluff before listening, because that one is foggy for me. End comment.
That was
Andrew doing Josh.
I apologize, Josh. I had nothing to do with that.
He coached me. We worked for weeks.
No, Andrew.
Honestly. Well, that's the end of the episode, folks. Thank you very much for listening. So I will see if I can't come up with a nice pun to send us off. No, it'll just be that we have just watched the Blind Puff variant. That was a lot of fun.
Good night, fair people. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review on your podcast app of choice. Andrew and I would be eternally grateful to you fine people for helping us expand and get the word out. Also, we've got a killer group on Facebook. Feel free to join in on the discussion at facebook.com/groups/thisisnothappeningpod and become an official member of the syndicate. We do polls and we have questions for every episode to give you guys the opportunity to chime in and possibly let your voice be heard on our recordings. And please join us on our new Twitter at tinhxfilespod, no dash, to stay up to date on everything, moment to moment. Thank you, and remember, don't stop swimming. It's that time, everyone, the Magus Media Production sales pitch. Please check out our homepage at magusmediaproductions.net so you can stay up to date on all of our shows. Check out our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/magusmediaproductions, both of which have our Discord link on it, where you can join us for live shows as we record them for future release. At Magus Media Prods on X, our Patreon, patreon.com/magusmedia, where a $5 donation will help us keep the lights on and bringing you new content, and you get some stickers. Thank you for your consideration and support.